A dangerous weather pattern is developing right now, which will lead to several rounds of severe weather, heavy snow, and ice accumulation over the next 7 days. It all begins today as a quick shot of ice and snow will hit the northeast. But the weather will be way worse later this week as several large storms will interact with a warm and unstable air mass. This setup will support organized thunderstorms capable of producing impactful weather like severe weather and snow in multiple states. All hazards will be possible, including damaging winds, large hail, and even a few tornadoes. This will be one of the biggest weather pattern changes that we've had literally in all of 2026. And we have a lot to talk about in today's forecast. And I want to begin with this crazy weather pattern change that we are about to experience. And this is nothing like what we've seen so far in 2026. And the big reason why is because right now, our jet stream is lifted way off to the north. This is where it's located right now. It is well off into Canada and also across the northeast. And what this is going to allow for over the next few days is to flip the switch from winter into spring. So what we are going to see is a lot of moisture and a lot of warm air come right out of the Gulf and out of the south here over the next few days. And eventually, we are going to see several storm systems make their way over the Rockies. And this is what's going to bring the return of severe weather. And for some of you, there could be still a little bit of snow and freezing rain left for this winter. So once we head into the middle of the week will be when the first storm system arrives. We could actually see some severe weather arrive out of this as soon as tomorrow in Oklahoma, where there could be some isolated hail and wind. But Wednesday looks to be the main day with this little shortwave trough that'll be moving across the Central Plains. And this storm will not be overly favorable when it comes to a major tornado outbreak or any sort of major significant severe weather event. With that said, we are expecting almost a dozen states to at least have a risk of severe weather, basically stretching from Texas back into Ohio, and we'll talk more about those details here in just a moment. Once we go into Thursday and Friday is when we are going to see another powerful storm. And this one will likely be way more impactful, as I am expecting a much more widespread threat of showers, thunderstorms, and severe weather to be on the table. The big reason why, well, it's a more intense storm system. We are going to have much stronger winds all across the board coming out of the southwest on Friday. The Storm Prediction Center has a large risk of severe weather that stretches from Texas back into the Midwest for that exact same reason. We are expecting a very favorable environment when it comes to storm energy, and on top of that, all the wind shear that we're going to have, and we definitely could see a few tornadoes. Where things get a lot more complicated is once we go into Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, there could be a continuation of severe weather basically from the Ohio Valley back into the Southern Plains, with more wind, hail, and tornadoes on the table as a low-pressure system spins around Mexico. And that could continue to create a lot of wind shear and also a lot of moisture coming out of the south and west. And then once we go into next week, this is where things get a lot more uncertain. But there is a real possibility of some sort of outbreak of severe weather. I'm not saying we're definitely going to see this, but if the GFS model were even close to right, there would definitely be a possibility of some sort of severe weather outbreak, maybe even tornado outbreak sometime around March 9th or 10th. Again, not set in stone as of right now. Obviously, it is still about a week from now, so things could definitely change, but this could obviously be a big deal. For right now, though, the odds of this happening are about 15 to 20%. So, not super high yet, but obviously that could increase or decrease. Now, one key thing about our severe weather that is upcoming over the next few days is that there will be a lot of storm fuel, and it all begins Tuesday. We are going to have a corridor for some severe storms across parts of Oklahoma, Texas, and maybe a little bit of Kansas. Wednesday will be a bit more organized, stretching from Indiana and Ohio back into Texas. I do think the main concern again will be Texas, western Arkansas, and eastern Oklahoma. On Thursday, there could be a little bit of severe weather here from Kansas into Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle. Damaging winds, hail, a few tornadoes on the table. Friday and Saturday look to be the more significant days. Friday could stretch from Ohio and even up near Chicago down into the Southern Plains. And then Saturday and Sunday, it'll be a bit more suppressed, but there could still be some severe weather stretching from Ohio back into South Texas. That'll be both Saturday and Sunday. And then by the beginning of next week is when things become more uncertain. But look at this corridor where we could have severe weather during the daytime on Tuesday. Right now, Tuesday, which is March 10th, looks to be the best chance of a severe weather outbreak or even some sort of tornado outbreak. So, again, Tuesday right now, we need to keep a very close eye on. I know it's still about 8 days from now. With that said, signals are definitely strong for something happening during the early portion of next week. But at least for right now, we gotta get through the next few days, as we could have several rounds of severe storms stretching from Texas all the way into the Ohio Valley. Now, let's talk more about the threat of severe weather over the next few days. Beginning with tomorrow, we do have a small marginal threat in Kansas and Oklahoma for isolated hail and wind. But again, Wednesday through Sunday are really going to be the main days here that we need to watch for severe storms. On Wednesday, we do have a large marginal threat of severe weather stretching from Cincinnati, Ohio, into Dallas-Fort Worth. All of Dallas-Fort Worth, and even into western Arkansas, including Fort Smith, we do have a slight risk where damaging winds, hail, and perhaps a few tornadoes will be on the table. So, definitely stay weather aware. Right now, Wednesday looks like a day that we could be live, and even Thursday does, as we do have another slight risk of severe weather. This one's over in western Oklahoma and also in parts of Texas, including Wichita Falls, where damaging winds, hail, and again, a few tornadoes will be possible. Friday, we have a much larger slight risk from southern Iowa, just south of Des Moines, all the way into the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And then Saturday, yes, you guessed it, Dallas-Fort Worth, we have another slight risk of severe weather in place. And I do expect severe weather to continue on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So again, this weather pattern is about to take a big turn. You guys need to be ready here for the return of severe weather season, as it is about to kick into high gear very quickly. Now, let's talk more about the timing of our severe weather events and also what is coming across the entire country over the next 7 days. Beginning with this morning, we do have a little winter weather event that is taking place across the Ohio Valley. If you remember about 5 days ago, we thought there was a chance that this could be a winter storm. It is not really meeting winter storm criteria anywhere, but it is bringing some snow and a light glazing of ice to parts of the Ohio Valley this morning. There are some school delays and cancellations due to it, but generally speaking, not a very significant weather event. Once we go late into today, there will be some light snow across the mid-Atlantic, maybe a little bit of ice in some of the higher elevations, and then overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, some of that moisture will start to lift to the north. We'll also get a little bit of moisture over the Rockies, and that should allow for an icing event to take place in Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, and then back into parts of southern New England during the daytime on Tuesday. Heavier snowfall is even possible across central and northern New England. So if you're over there, we're not done with winter quite yet. We still got some snow on the way before all that warm air starts to lift to the north. We also will have a storm system making its way over the Rockies late Tuesday, and this could trigger a few severe storms in parts of Oklahoma, but overall capping could end up being an issue. But we could end up seeing a couple of hailstorms, maybe a damaging wind event. Doesn't look to be anything too crazy though for Tuesday. And a narrow band of showers and isolated thunderstorms will stretch from Missouri all the way back into Pennsylvania late Tuesday and into early Wednesday. That snow event moves out Wednesday morning. We'll be dealing with some scattered showers and thunderstorms during the morning hours on Wednesday. And then Wednesday afternoon and evening is when a more organized risk of severe weather will try to take place mainly in Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. Large hail up to the size of about 2 inches, and also damaging wind gusts up to 70 mph are my main concerns. However, a couple of tornadoes cannot be ruled out. We'll also have some storms out there across the Ohio Valley and back into the mid-Atlantic with some isolated hail and wind being possible, but again, severe weather will not be very significant in those areas. Thursday, scattered showers and thunderstorms will stretch from the Great Lakes back into the Southern Plains. I'm not expecting a big day of severe weather on Thursday as of right now, but if we were to see anything, it would be back over here really in the high plains and also the central and southern plains. We're watching for some isolated hailstorms, maybe a couple of tornadoes as well, late Thursday into early Friday across Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, but confidence is a little bit low right now on exactly what is going to happen there. storm system is also going to make its way into the northeast late Thursday and Friday. That could bring a little bit more snow and ice to parts of central and northern New England. Friday afternoon and evening is when we're expecting a larger storm system to rip some severe storms from South Texas, even as far north as southern Iowa, where damaging winds, hail, and a few tornadoes are on the table. Right now, out of the next 5 days, Friday looks to be the biggest day of severe weather here across the country. Saturday and into early Sunday, this is where things start to get a little bit more uncertain. Right now, the European model showing a large cluster of thunderstorms in Texas, Oklahoma, even into Kentucky, with wind being the biggest concern on Saturday. But tornadoes definitely cannot be ruled out. And then Sunday, more uncertainty grows here, but there could still be a continuation of isolated severe weather somewhere in the Ohio Valley or back down in the deep south. And then Monday and Tuesday are going to be very interesting. Monday right now does not look to be anything when it comes to severe weather. But Tuesday could be a big day because we could have an Alberta clipper coming out of Canada. And while that's happening, moist air and really warm air is going to lift off to the north. Very tight pressure gradient here, which is our pressure gradient between the low and high pressure system. That's going to really rip our wind gusts, which means we'll have a lot of wind shear on top of that. And all these ingredients combined could create a very favorable and volatile environment for significant severe weather on Tuesday. Again, I'm not 100% confident that this can happen yet, but it is really the one day that we need to watch for very closely for next week, as it could be very significant. And then, anything beyond Tuesday of next week gets a lot more uncertain. But again, snow is definitely not impossible at this point. We could see some wintry weather return sometime around the middle of March, but keep in mind that winter is going to be coming to an end here in just a few weeks. And over the next couple of weeks, we are expecting mostly above average temperatures across the lower 48. Yeah, there's going to be a heat wave. It's going to be very warm. Not really expecting any major shots of cold air anytime soon, but there will be occasional weak cold fronts. I do think, though, by around, again, the middle of March, we could see a couple of shots of cold air come out of Canada. Wouldn't really classify this as Arctic air at this point unless you're in the northern tier of the country. Again, this is not going to be anything like what we saw back in January or February, but with that said, we definitely could have some more shots of snow on the way. So, any sort of Arctic air or cold air that comes out of Canada that could allow for the return of some snow around the middle of March. But again, for most of us, there's not a whole lot of snow left here for the rest of winter. I think winter has run its course. I know the groundhog said there were 6 more weeks of winter left for the entire United States, but at this point, does not look like that's going to be happening. The dramatic shift we're witnessing represents a fundamental reorganization of the atmospheric pattern that has dominated the first 2 months of 2026. This jet stream configuration change marks the transition from a winter-dominated weather regime to one that supports the development of severe thunderstorms and the gradual warming trend that characterizes the approach of spring. What makes this pattern change particularly significant is the speed at which it's occurring and the potential for multiple rounds of severe weather to develop in rapid succession. The combination of strong wind shear, abundant moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, and the thermal contrasts created by the shifting jet stream position creates an ideal environment for supercell thunderstorm development. The uncertainty in the extended forecast reflects the complex nature of this transitional period, where small changes in storm timing or track can have major implications for severe weather development. This type of active pattern often produces memorable severe weather events that can have lasting impacts on affected communities.